Boy, everybody knew what a downwinder was. We were the anti-nuclear capital of the world. I was an autistic kid. My father was a drafted United States Marine, an incredible man. I come from an incredible family. My uncle stood on Omaha Beach on D-Day. I grew up on a huge ranch out by the lake. He was a beautiful, incredible person. He was at Pendleton, combat ready, and they were human guinea pig. They were marched into the trenches in Nevada. They're called atomic veterans. He nearly died at the blast. Between 1951 and 1968, we had 300 open-air tests. Well, as different scientists started to write about this, Wallace Stegner was at the University of Utah at the time. I got to know him. Edward Abbey was hanging around there. I got to know him. I got to know all these environmentalists, and I was an environmentalist, and it was a passionate, intense subject matter there.
All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. They'll be calling you a radical. Plumegate, 311, whatever you want to call it. I call it Pacific genocide, whatever. It's fucking giant conspiratorial across all demographics. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. They'll be calling you a radical. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. Plumegate, 311, whatever you want to call it. I call it Pacific genocide, whatever. It's fucking giant conspiratorial across all demographics. They'll be calling you a radical. May God have mercy on all of your souls.
Nuclear power was evolving. We were promised, oh, this can't happen.
Hey, UCY TV and radio listeners, this is Lonnie Clark with the Post-Ignorance Project. I hope that my voice comes out fine. This is the first time we've been calling from the Skype, and hopefully it's a lot clearer. I spoke with Joel, and apologize for last Thursday. There was just a glitch, so I kind of got some lessons on how to log in and how to make sure this goes right. So I wanted to talk to you today. I want to update you about Kevin's journey to Austria. I don't know if you saw his video, but he basically got banned from going through the standard tourist thing that everybody's allowed to do. They allow people to go through a tour at the IAEA, and they blocked him because he's a protester. And, you know, that actually brings up a lot of what I wanted to talk about, is this idea of us being blocked. The idea, this is the ironic part. This is the thing that's been on my heart quite a bit. This is the ironic part. The IAEA says they're bringing energy, peaceful energy to everyone on the planet. It's the peaceful atom, right? So why did we throw an 85-year-old nun in jail if we're talking about the peaceful atom? Why can't a peaceful protester go through a tour at the IAEA? Why is it a crime to oppose the nuclear cartel? Why did they suppress all of John Goffman's information and Arthur Tamplin's information if they're the peaceful atom people? Because they're not peaceful. Because they have no regard for life on this planet, as all of us are now finding out. How many of us have friends? In fact, you remember Riccardo Di Napoli is the man that painted those two paintings for Fukushima. He's working on a third one about the nuclear poison. Yesterday was his 57th birthday, and he got a call from his sister. Guess what? She's got thyroid cancer. She lives in Florida, and she's got thyroid cancer. They have no idea why she has thyroid cancer. And, you know, I know when I said to him, well, that's probably imprint of Fukushima, he's like, oh, yeah, probably. And honestly, that speaks to exactly the issue of how these murderous bastards get away with what they're doing. Because people don't care. They're like, oh, well, you're going to have to die of something. The whales are falling up on the oceans, thousands of tiny crabs falling up on the ocean, and people are saying, that's just too bad. Isn't it bad that my sister has cancer? Isn't it bad that I have cancer? Ooh, I hate the cancer. You know, one of the things that John Goffman talked about regularly was not just the cancer. We know that for every 2 rads of radiation in the air, they proved that we get 32,000 more cancers. I.e., we now have a cancer epidemic because the whole fucking world is full of radiation. He also talks about the not just the genetic mutations, but the mental retardation and the odd diseases. I mean, this is definitely a win-win for the nuclear and biomedical industry, right? Like, they make us sick, then we have to pay for them to help us get well. We drain our fucking bank accounts. Thank you very much. And then they get to charge the government for whatever else we can't afford to pay for. I mean, it's an outrage. It is a complete outrage, beyond an outrage. So that's why we're here, and that's why we're gathering, and we're making an effort to gather up steam, right? So one of the things that I was listening to this morning, I was listening to Brian Tracy. He's a motivational speaker. And he was talking about how do you motivate the team? Because I wanted to think about how do we get people motivated. His primary advice was pick the right team. So this is an interesting thing because there are now, probably a few hundred people involved in stopping the nuclear cartel out of millions of people in the United States, maybe 1,000 at most, probably. If you put us all together in a room, we might equal 2,000 all across the whole entire country. But it's, we have a hodgepodge team. So our hands are tied behind our backs because of the regulations. We have a hit and miss team of people who don't really interconnect and who are so busy fighting their own local issues. Speaking of local issues, let me share with you something that is going through the Oregon House right now. It is, I actually did write my senator, my state senator, my state representative, the governor, my mayor, and my county commissioner. Because this is a pretty frightening, in my view, it's a very frightening bill. It's called House Bill 3445. And I want to give a shout out to Mimi German up in Portland. I would not have known about this bill if she had not gotten herself to the state capitol to protest and to put in a public comment last month, which turned into a fiasco. They let the nuclear cartel spew out their bullshit, and then when it came to the public comment, they cut everybody off. Actually, what happened was she had to go out and put quarters. It took so long, she had to put quarters in her meter again, and then they wouldn't let her back in. She was a few minutes late, and they're like, nope, time's up. But that is how the legislation works. Honestly, legalese why they use the law to benefit and to harm. And that's exactly what happened. They ran out of time, and there's like not even 5 extra minutes. Sorry. So this is House Bill 3445. Listen to the title of it. Establishes a task force on nuclear power. Directs task force to study and report on matters related to the use of nuclear power. Sunsets task force on December 31st, 2016. Declares emergency, effective on passage. Like, they just threw that in. We're going to declare a state of emergency in Oregon as soon as House Bill 3445 passes. So what the fuck is up with that? Like, seriously? People need to pay attention to the legislation that's going through their House of Representatives and their state Senate. This kind of bullshit is really like, this is how they sneak in martial law on us, folks. I mean, I was about blown away. And actually, listen to the last, this is section 1, number 3. The majority of the members of the task force constitute a quorum for the transaction of business. So what does that fucking mean? That they can decide, yes, we like nuclear power and we're going to start doing business? I wrote to my senators and to my representatives here, and I said, why are we declaring a state of emergency? Section 3 of House Bill 3445 clarifies why they're going to declare an emergency in the state of Oregon. Section 2, this is the interesting thing. They talk about setting up the task force in Section 1, and the task force is going to be run and appointed by the governor of a faculty member or an employee of Oregon State University who teaches or conducts research in the field that is related to the procurement of nuclear energy. We know who that is, Catherine Higley. A member of who represents the Public Utility Commission, a member who represents investor-owned utilities, a member who represents consumer-owned utilities in this state, a member who is involved in the procurement of nuclear energy. Now, we are saying that a majority of these members constitute a quorum for the transaction of business. Now, really, the problem with this is that in Oregon, we passed a law before I moved here that made it illegal to have nuclear energy in Oregon. So what is this about? So then this is why they had to declare the state of emergency, because it's illegal to have nuclear power in Oregon unless it's a state of emergency. Unless there's a state of emergency, all bets are off. So Section 2 says, Section 1 of this act will be repealed on December 31st, 2016. So they're only going to repeal Section 1, which is, i.e., the task force. So by then, they could have already started a whole shitload of stuff. They could start building these little tiny, quote, thermos nuclear power plants. Buried thermoses, as Reyes called them. But Section 3 says, this 2015 act being necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, and safety. An emergency is declared to exist, and this 2015 act takes effect on its passage. So, look, folks, I don't know who wrote this language. I do know it was pushed by Representative Wiedner, Representatives Bueller and Hurd, and my guess is it came directly from the nuclear cartel. That would be my guess. It's shocking, I have to say. You know, when I got involved with Kevin, I had no fucking idea how deep the hideous rabbit hole was. You know, I used to say that Bush and Cheney were worse than Caligula, right? Because they're pretty evil bastards. But I'm telling you what, they're taking their cue from the nuclear cartel. The nuclear cartel really has lost its soul and lost its way. I pulled some articles off of the internet for Thursday. I wanted to talk to you guys about some stuff that was going down on Thursday. But I'm telling you what, they're going full steam ahead. I pulled off a new article from The Hill just this morning. Feds eye small nuclear reactors for key role in U.S. energy policy. Wow. That's those little, you know, Reyes, the guy from, I don't know if you guys know this, but the guy Reyes did that whole thing on NewScale. He introduced us to the little tiny thermoses buried halfway in the plant, the little modular ones. They're easy and they're small and no one's really going to see them because they're built halfway, and if there's a problem, don't worry, they're buried in the ground already. So if there's an explosion, it's already in the ground. See, that's why Chernobyl, this is their stupid fucking thinking. Chernobyl wasn't so bad because it was buried in the ground, not like Fukushima where everything was exposed. These people are fucking mentally ill with greed. Seriously. You know why this guy's promoting this? I apologize. June 30th, he's going to get a check for $10 million. He graduated the Oregon State University just last year. This year, Catherine Higley has helped him set up his own little private corporation called NewScale, and he gets a check for $10 million. Who graduates school and gets a check the next year for $10 million? The nuclear cartel. That's how they get everybody. First, they indoctrinate them and convince them that it's just not that bad. I mean, what did John Goffman talk about? John Goffman wrote an article called Biomedical Unknowledge in Nuclear Pollution, a Common Sense Proposal. He wrote this in 1992. And he talks about their fucking wish list. These bastards. They actually have a wish list, if you can believe it. It's unfucking believable. He wrote about this. This is what they want to have. This is the wish list of the nuclear cartel. The number one is, best of all, is to find a little radiation actually improves human health. Really, that's called hormosis. Well, that is not a possibility because a little bit of radiation, that's the Ann Coulter story, right? Oh, radiation actually helps us. It makes us feel better. It's good for us. Fuck you. It's not good for us. It's the biggest evil that's ever been perpetrated on the entire fucking planet. Go ask the whales. Go ask the dolphins, you dumb fucks. Honestly, this is where I start cussing, folks. I can't be nice about this. I got into this because I had a dream about Fukushima. Actually, I had a dream about Hanford and discovered Fukushima's a fucking nightmare. And every day since May 5th, 2012, it's the first fucking thing on my brain. And me and Kevin, we have plenty of arguments. We have a lot of discussions. We do disagree quite a bit on Helen Caldecott. He thinks she's a sellout. I don't. I admire Helen Caldecott. And I think she's done a lot of work. She's over 80 years old, and she's doing the best she can right now to fight these bastards. And then she has to fucking fight us? I disagree with that. But you know what? That's what makes us America. We can disagree. It doesn't matter. Because the truth is going to come out in the end. And the real truth is that these motherfuckers are killing us all. In 5 years, you think shitloads of people are not going to have thyroid cancer? It's disgusting. Let me get back to this wish list. This is unfucking believable. Number 1, a little radiation improves all human health. In case hormosis cannot be sold to the public, the best outcome would be evidence supporting a threshold dose of radiation below which no harm occurs at all. Guess what? That's not possible either. It's harmful in any amount, period. It's not good. This whole thing is just a science experiment on the entire fucking planet. And if number 3 is, if hormosis and thresholds are not successfully sold to the general public, the next best product is the familiar claim that a dose of radiation is far less harmful if it is received slowly over time than if the same dose is received all at once. Since 1980, the claim is 2 to 10 times less harmful. This speculation, it's called speculation, folks, is invoked to divide the observed cancer from the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings. Sorry about that. The Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings by numbers. Hang up. By numbers up to 10 in predictions about injury by the blow doses from Chernobyl. So this whole bullshit that they can give us low doses is completely incorrect. I mean, there is no low dose, as we've all found out, as all of us have had family members who have had cancer and are dying. This brings me back to why Kevin's in Austria and why he's standing outside and can't go into a tour, why these people think that they're above the law, why they think that they need to be insulated away from any protesters and they can't talk to Kevin. You notice none of those people actually engage Kevin. Have you been watching his videos? The really stunning thing is nobody walks up to him to challenge that radiation kills people. Not one of those scientists have the fucking nerve to talk to him about, you're incorrect, Kevin Blanche, about radiation harming people, because they fucking know the truth. They know they're lying. They know that they are ignoring a good portion of the science. And they're going with a false, John Goffman was like, this is why they got rid of John Goffman. Because he spoke articulately and clearly. That's why nobody knows who John Goffman is. They pretty much erased his name from history, except for a few eclectic people who understand who he is. But John Goffman actually really talked about this. There is no safe level. They've already determined there's no safe level. And there is no sense of democracy. There's no sense of the common good inside the nuclear cartel. Just the exact same reason they don't let Kevin come up and protest. It's the same fucking reason these people are fucking cowards and refuse to engage him and talk to him about what's the safe level of radiation. Because there is no safe fucking level of radiation. It's like talking about Fukushima. It's not a nuclear reactor. It's not a nuclear power plant. It's 3 fucking nuclear power plants that fucking blew up. One that's collapsing. And God knows about the other 2. There's six reactors, 5 reactors and 1 holding station that are a complete fucking mess. 4 years later, spewing out untold amounts of radiation beyond belief to the the point where, yes, it's actually fucking killing the whales and the sea life and the plankton and the krill and all the little tiny microorganisms that keeps the fucking ocean alive, you dumbasses. And there's nothing you can do about it, and none of them have the fucking courage to face their errors and face their mistakes. And you know what? I guess that's what keeps every single one of us who's listening to the sound of my voice talking about this. It is super important that we cannot just slink away and go, oh, well, I've got cancer. Oh, well, my sister's got cancer. You got to die of something. Fuck no. We're talking about survival of the planet, not just the human species. The nuclear cartel, and this probably gives them a fucking hard on, man. The nuclear cartel loves the idea that they have the power to kill everything on this fucking planet except the cockroaches and plants. You know, these goddamn bastards. Like, honestly, it's 8 o'clock in the morning where I'm at. Do you think I like getting this worked up? But every time I start talking about the nuclear cartel, this is where it goes. My friends and family say, God, how can you just, like, live in such negativity? Well, I didn't choose it. It chose me. I spent my life, like, studying positive self-talk and self-healing. I mean, I grew up in what was like, I don't know, like a prison. I was a battered child. It was horrible. I don't have happy memories of a child. I spent the last 30 years of my fucking adult life learning how to be happy. Learning how to, like, just love life. This is why I send people the 4 Agreements. If nobody's read that book, you need to, because it gives you a great foundation on how to get past all the bullshit that we have to survive. Because tell you what, we are like battered wives with no battered wife shelter. So we've got to be resourceful and live it on our own. And not get depressed and not get upset about it. But, you know, my anger is healthy. I think it's an appropriate response to these motherfuckers who are killing us. I mean, Kevin Blanche can't even get into a fucking tour at the IAEA. They're like, because you might actually tell somebody inside the tour that Fukushima's killing everybody. You might tell someone in there that you got cancer because your dad was a nuclear veteran and you got bombarded with Fukushima radiation. It's bullshit, man. We honestly, it's the insanity of our world. And you know what? I want to thank Joel for making this available, this radio show, because this is a pretty powerful venue that we can actually get out on the airwaves and talk and give information out. So let me get back to giving information out, because there is a lot of information. And I want to go back to this House Bill 3445 in Oregon. The interesting thing, if you were to do research about the House, if you type in Oregon 3445, and that's all you typed in, the first thing you would find is something that says, it talks about human services. It's some kind of a welfare bill that was going through Oregon. This is how the nuclear cartel works. There was a bill that went through the House last year that was about social services, and it was called House Bill 3445. So if you Google it, you just Google House Bill 3445 Oregon, you might pull up the Human Resources Bill and not even recognize that that's what it's about. I kind of had to do some digging about it. This is how much fucking control. These fucking rats have so much money, they can think of everything. They're devious motherfuckers who figure out ways to just lie to everybody and confuse everybody. I mean, give it to my science teacher in terrestrial science, Alex Geddes, you know. She did not know about the control that the IAEA has over the World Health Organization. I had to do for my class, I had to do a scientific presentation, and we had to pick a question, a scientific question, and research both sides and then pick a side. My question was, does the IAEA disclose scientific truth regarding the harm of nuclear pollution? And I was easily able to find all kinds of like pro-nuclear shit that said, yes, we protect everybody, it's in our charter. I quoted the IAEA, but you know, I could not find a scientific. There was one scientific study I found. It was done in Spain in 2013. And these scientists basically said, it was a group, I think, of 13 scientists, or 6 scientists, I beg your pardon. 6 scientists who said that actually none of the IAEA's claims about safety have ever been verified. They couldn't find any research. That was their scientific study. So, honestly, it's really ironic, folks, that the IAEA talks that they're science, but they are not. So I was able to pull up World Health Organization, their Charter 1240. That was an agreement. It's called WHA 1240. And that's the agreement by which the IAEA reigns supreme over the World Health Organization. It's the contract they signed that said the IAEA can censor and direct the World Health Organization in an effort to protect its interests. That was basically the conversation in that agreement. So since then, now they signed that contract with the World Health Organization in 1957 or 59. They joined the UN, the IAEA joined the UN in 1957, and since then it's been a downhill slog because 2 years after that they signed the World Health Organization Suppression Act. That's what I call it. It's a suppression agreement. When Chernobyl happened, they did not allow the World Health Organization into Chernobyl for 5 years. That's a known fact. When they went into Chernobyl, they were only allowed to research children and only allowed to research 3 types of cancer. That's it. And that's, in fact, why they can say nobody died. Because they didn't study anybody for 5 fucking years. So it's super important that everybody that hears this, get actively engaged. Look it up on the internet. Look up the bills that are going through your own state legislature, because that's how they're going to fucking sneak it in. They're not going to talk about it on the big scale. This morning there was an article on The Hill. The title says, Feds eye small nuclear reactors for key role in U.S. energy policy. You know what that means? That's the WIN initiative. They want to pop those up all over the place. Their initial plan with these nuclear reactors was to build 800 of them across the country. I mean, they wanted 800 of them. And then we had 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and that put a dent in everything. And Fukushima pretty much made everybody realize that, nuclear energy is a lose, 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 lose situation for us, not win-win. It's lose-lose. I'm sorry, I have something in my throat, you guys. So it's really important that we make sure we understand, like this House Bill 3445, we make sure that we tell our state legislators we do not want more nuclear power in our country. These little small... Reyes, the guy who graduated from OSU, who's got that $12 million check at the end of this month for this task force, he's going to get a $12 million check for this task force at the end of this month. Hopefully my letter and the letters of other people will slow the train down on that. I'm actually going to be giving him a call. But he basically put out a little video that said, these are just like little thermoses. They're built. They showed this video. It's really cute, very sanitized. It's like a little pod that they buried halfway underground, and all you see is like a little half-circle dome, And I think that probably worked for them because people like me who grew up near San Onofre, but not right next to it, I wasn't in that community. I drove past it. I lived up in Redondo Beach, but I would drive down to San Diego all the time. My family lives there. I did not know it was a nuclear power plant. I thought it was an observatory. And I'll bet you 2 to 1 when they build these nuclear power plants that, 3/4 of it or half of it's in the ground, and then there's a little dome that will come out, and they plan on popping them up. They're small little reactors, like 100 feet by 100 feet, like the one that's up in Corvallis. And they basically are just going to put those in the ground. And then if they want to expand more nuclear power, they'll build another one right next to it. I mean, this is insanity. The insanity of it. Last week, in the Hill, right after this, Feds eye small nuclear reactors for key role in U.S. energy policy. On the 9th, we got, it was 6-8 on the Hill. Nuclear regulators to downsize agency. They're firing 178 people because there are, we're moving away from nuclear energy. Except that we're not. Feds eye small nuclear reactors for key role in U.S. energy policy. So what is it? Are they just planning on getting away, the NRC is a joke anyways. It doesn't really do jack shit for anyone. It's a fucking rubber stamp on the nuclear cartel. Maybe all those people in the NRC are sick of squirming, so they decided they don't really need their job anymore. But, we really seriously have to take action with this, folks. I mean, listen to how lethal. Do we really want this? Do we seriously really, really want the waste of the nuclear and how polluted it is? This is from an article, and I have not had time. I'm just got out of school, so I'm just now catching up. But I plan on reading this on my YouTube channel at Nuts for Art. During my research for that scientific question, I came across an article that I wasn't able to use, but I sure downloaded it. It was released on 10/25/2006. However, it was written on November 14th, 1972. So why was this hidden for so long? The title of it is called The Safety of Nuclear Power by Alvin M. Weinberg. He's a promoter of nuclear energy, but as you read it, it's about an 18-page document. This is why it was probably censored for so long, because people, at the time it was written, people were paying attention to what nuclear did to the body and nuclear did to the planet. So in here, he basically talks about the potential hazard of a nuclear system arises from the toxicity, both of materials that keep the system burning and from the fission product ashes. Plutonium-239, with a half-life of 24,400 years, is lethal to man in doses of about 16 thousandths of a gram if ingested in the lungs. That's in the lungs. Strontium-90, with a half-life of 30 years, will be lethal if, check this out, 70 millionths of a gram is ingested. I mean, 70 millionths of a gram? We want to produce a product that is toxic if 70 millionths of a gram is ingested. Iodine-131, with a half-life of about 8 days, will be lethal after ingestion with only, check this out, 30 billionths of a gram. 30 billionths. What are they talking about? Honestly. How could the nuclear energy industry believe that this is actually a viable source of energy? How could our government be saying, we're eyeing small nuclear reactors for a key role, as if having them be small makes them less lethal? It's an unconscionable industry. I am going to read this whole article because it has a ton of information that actually, he goes into the spent fuel, the chemical processing and the transport and the waste products. It makes you shudder to realize how much they actually do know. That's the thing. How much do they really know? They know a lot. And, when I'm a college student. I just finished taking terrestrial science and oceanography. And I have to tell you what, after I finished that class, I realized these motherfuckers know everything. They know it all. They know how fucking hard it is damaging the fucking ocean. They're not going to tell me that nobody's out there studying it and talking about it. They're just fucking shaking in their boots. You know why? Because if they told us the truth, guess what? People would fucking be up in pitchforks. I mean, we would be putting these people and locking them up in their labs and forcing them to fucking find fucking answers. Their scientific laboratories would be their fucking prisons, which is what it should be. Anybody who is going into the nuclear industry who wants to be a denier and a liar deserves to spend the rest of their lives imprisoned in a scientific laboratory, forcing them to find us solutions for this bullshit. I know Kevin's in Europe right now. He's walking along. I think he's met some really great people over there. And I think that that's really what we need in the United States, is to bring some new ideas back here. Because people in the States are just so fucking complacent about everything. Although, I have to say, the people listening within the sound of this radio show, the people here who listen here are not complacent. They're searching for answers. We're figuring out what the fuck can we do. Like, oh my God, like, it is beyond bad. It's so bad that beyond the point of being bad that people like us are considered conspiracy nuts. We're considered extremists. Because why? Because we want fucking answers? We want them to stop murdering the planet? I mean, forget the war. That's one of the things that just drives Kevin crazy. All these stupid fuckers are talking about, like, oh, the nuclear, we're going to stop nuclear wars, and we're going to stop nuclear weapons, and we're going to, stop the nuclear weapon industry. No! We need to stop the whole fucking nuclear cartel. Because the nuclear cartel is the weapons industry. Because it is a weapon on humanity. That book, Population Control Through Nuclear Pollution, was not a fucking joke. I mean, they know exactly what they're doing to the planet. It's a science experiment. They're working on all of us. It's unfucking believable. And it is up to us. It's up to us to discern the bullshit and to speak out and to pressure our elected officials to just stop fucking playing footsie with these people and get serious, because it's going to affect their children and their lives and their people. It's not just the future. It's everything. We need to bury those goddamn holes in Japan right like yesterday. It's a world emergency that is being ignored. And now the poor fucking Japanese are being forced to go move back there. They just want them to die quickly. Is that their solution? I mean, Alan Grayson said that, right? He said that's the GOP's healthcare plan, is if you get sick, die quickly. Well, that's kind of the plan in Japan now, isn't it? Just send them all back to Fukushima so that they'll just die quickly. It's bullshit. There's another story that's going on in the United States that I did want to talk about. But it really is this is again, and the reason I picked it is because it's super fucking sneaky. This is how these rat bastards work, and I swear to God, they just piss me off. There's a title in the New York Times. It said, dated May 10th. After 36 years, nuclear plant in Tennessee nears completion. Tom Wallace started working on the Watts Bar nuclear plant as a young man in 1979, hoping he would eventually be a reactor operator. At 55, he's still waiting. The plant's opening 36 years later, one of the longest building projects in the country's history. Now think about that. We've had a 36-year-long commitment to a plant that has had problem after problem after problem. The Tennessee Valley Authority vastly overestimated the demand for electricity decades ago. How many decades? In the 60s, when they were pushing nuclear. In 1966, it announced plans to build 17 reactors in Tennessee, Alabama, and Mississippi. By 1985, the agency canceled plans for almost half of them because of the slumping economy and the spiraling construction costs. However, the building of the first reactor, Watts Bar 1, proved a big mess. Regulators approved the construction in 1973, but a dozen years later, they requested permission to load the field's reactive fuel. But whistleblowers raised construction concerns, prompting long delays in inspections. By 1995, the NRC inspectors reported a poorly welded metal and electrical cables that were damaged during installation, and the quality assurance records were missing or incorrect information. This is the kind of thing we're pouring billions of dollars into an industry who fucking go to work drunk and stay high all fucking day. You know what the rate is of people being caught drunk on the job? Go look that one up. That was one of the first things that I looked up. I couldn't believe it. You know how regularly people get caught drinking on the job at the NRC? At these nuclear power plants? A lot. And that's why we have shitty work being done. There is no regulation. The only time you get into trouble if you work for the Atomic Energy Agency, the NRC, is if you're a whistleblower. You can do whatever the fuck you want, but don't start talking about quality control or being harmed by nuclear radiation. Don't start being a whiner. That's when you get into trouble. Don't start talking about humanity. Don't start talking about the harm it's causing the area. I mean, it's unconscionable. We have an entire industry built around lies and secrecy, and they say that they're going to give us the peaceful atom. Really? The peaceful atom. They cannot engage in open dialogue. They cannot engage in discourse. They cannot stand people who are working for them saying, hey, shit's going wrong here. We've got to fix it. They cannot engage in the reality of real science. And that's who we're having rely on for our new so-called energy resources. These are the people that we're relying on. It's a fucking cash cow. Most of our dollars, a lot of our tax dollars really do go to the nuclear industry. Over 80-90% of the Department of Energy budget is specifically focused towards nuclear energy. What do you think this new thing is? I'm sorry, folks. I got a bug in my throat. The Fed's eye nuclear reactors for key role in U.S. energy policy. The nuclear industry's congressional supporters see a role for federal government in enabling small development of small reactors. Now, these are the people we have to go after. Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. I've long supported and advocated for the development and deployment of small nuclear reactors. And she is the chairwoman of the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. She's willing to fucking just decimate Alaska for the nuclear industry. I mean, honestly, I do not know. She says she's excited about coming to Alaska. The size, the potential, power potential, the ability to add unit by unit could be a game changer for small remote communities that pay extremely high energy costs. You know how much higher it's going to be if they have a fucking nuclear meltdown? It's going to be called Goodbye Alaska. And in fact, maybe that's why she doesn't give a fuck. She's been ignoring Fukushima. You think these people on this Energy Commission don't already know how severe the issue is up in Alaska? I mean, I took those 2 classes. I'm just a student, and I was able to connect the fucking dots. These people know. There is no way. There is zero chance. I'm actually, after this term of taking these 2 little science classes, I'm 100% convinced. This is not just a cover-up. This is a fucking burial alive. This is bullshit. They know. That bullshit with Ken Buesler, the water buckets, and we're intentionally not testing. Fuck you. Like, honestly, it's all just such a stupid fucking game. They think we're that fucking stupid to believe their bullshit. They know exactly what's going on in the ocean. They have been, I can guarantee you they've been testing since day one. They know exactly how catastrophic it is. They fully understand. They fully understand how knee-deep in shit all of us are. They want us to believe they did not know. Right. Right. Just like the people in Germany didn't know when they smelt burning flesh. They knew. But what happens is these people feel so threatened. This is why the people in Germany didn't speak out. They felt so threatened that they were paralyzed with fear themselves, and they did nothing. That's exactly what the world's community is doing. And I believe that it's probably also the scientists. They can't be this fucking stupid. They know exactly what's going on. The people who are studying the ocean know exactly what's studying on. It would be gross negligence for them to not have tested for radiation on all of these animals, and I guarantee they have. They're just not telling us. What's the point of them telling us? Then what? Oh yeah, the animals have super high levels of radiation. What do you fucking think that the population would say to that bullshit? Imagine if the truth really came out. That these sea animals are dying because the krill has all been killed by the nuclear radiation plumes that are floating through the fucking ocean. What do you think how people would respond to that? They wouldn't even want to fucking go on the ocean. The fish industry would be dead in a heartbeat. I mean, I watch people still eat fucking fish. My friends will still eat fish, and I'm not kidding you. Like, I have to zip my lip. Like, really? You're still eating fish? They're like, well, what's the difference? The difference is it bioaccumulates. That's the first place. It's super bad. Maybe that's what I should do, is try to figure out a way to communicate that over the radio. What bioaccumulation means and how it really does act inside the body. But the reality is people listening to this radio show probably already know all that. Which is why you're listening. Because you're as fucking outraged as I am. We honestly have got some heavy-duty work to do, folks, in the next 10 years. We're not going to fix this quickly. You know, I've been engaged with this myself only just a few years, since 2012. And I think about the people who have been actively engaged in it, and they're still hitting their fucking heads against the wall. I think part of that is we're not a unified force. We haven't built our team. You know, Brian Tracy said it right. 95% of building a good team is getting all the right members. And we don't have a team. We have a team full of people who have different opinions and they're taking different tactics. We don't have a unified force. The IAEA, you got to give them credit, man. They're fucking Nazi-like, man. It's their way or the highway. I mean, if you pop up even one little tiny question, you're fucking out. They do not take dissenters. It is not a democracy in the nuclear cartel. It is full-on fascism, totalitarianism. And if you speak out at all, you're done. Your lights are out, baby. And no medical insurance for your health problems either. Did you see those poor victims up in Hanford? The guy's shaking. He worked there all of his whole life. The last 2 years of his life, he's like shaking, got encephaly. His brain is like shriveling up and all of his system is shutting down. Well, that's what happens with the nuclear industry. Yeah, you can be fine for, I don't know, 15, 20 years, and then boom, you're going to get mowed down quick. And let me tell you what, this is why people love Kevin. Not many people survive cancer. Kevin loved his life enough to fight. Most people just fucking give in. Or maybe he's just ornery enough. He's just going to fight. Maybe it's both. But you know what? Thank God for Kevin Blanche, because we need him out there speaking out. And we need him talking truth to these fucking nuclear liars. But you know what? None of them are going to walk up to him and start trying to engage him on a rational basis and trying to talk to him and say, hey, nuclear energy is really not that bad. Let me tell you the reasons why. Because they can't. Because they know the fucking truth. And they know that we're so deep in the shit that they consider themselves the nuclear priesthoods now. That's what they call themselves. They consider themselves nukies, the nuclear priesthoods. They believe that they are the protectors of all humanity now because they have created an industry that is fucking killing everybody on this planet. And not just humans. All life on this planet has been permanently damaged, especially since Fukushima. You know, Ackerman and I were talking, I kind of feel like we're just pissing in the wind because the damage is done. But guess what? Even if it's really the very last years, the last 100 years of life on this planet for humans, I'm going to fucking go down swinging. I'm not going to let them get away with this murder. And I really believe that we do have solutions that we have not even talked about. On an intuitive level, I think sound healing, because sound changes molecules, I think that sound healing might be the answer. But I took 2 science classes, folks, so I'm not the answer, obviously. So we have 10 minutes left, and I just wanted to say this. Kevin Blanch is going to be in Europe until September 10th. He's out at the IAEA protesting. They have a spent fuel conference right now about what are they going to do with that old pesky spent fuel that we can't figure out what to do with. So the people from Utah are actually there. Kevin saw that. I think he said the governor or somebody, one of the senators, somebody there from Utah is there. But that I'm sure Catherine Higley is there, and they're all taking a great vacation all on our dime. The whole fucking nuclear cartel is probably going on our dime. And, he's out there protesting every single day. The conference is from the 15th to the 18th. Now, this was kind of a coinky-dinky. We had the G7 last week. We had the Bilderberg last week. And we have the IAEA conference. All in the same little neck of the woods in Austria. All around. So you think those fucking world leaders are not talking to the nuclear cartel? For real? This is a big concern. This is why it's super hush-hush top secret, because they know what a fucking time bomb it is. They're putting, I can't even imagine how many billions of dollars they're spending to make sure that not one little pipe, a peep about Fukushima and how out of fucking control and how horrible it is actually coming out. They're spending shitloads of money paying that guy that writes for Forbes to tell us, you know what the lesson from Fukushima is? That radiation just isn't that bad. That's their number 2 on the wish list, isn't it? Coinky dinky. These people are fucking sick. They are evil. I don't know who runs this industry, the people at the very top, the big decision makers, but let me tell you what, they definitely are worse than Caligula. So Kevin's going to be in Europe. The conference is only for a few days, but he's going to stay there, and he wants to travel around Europe and meet with the anti-nuclear organizations, because all over Europe they have really good networks to keep nuclear out of their countries. I mean, they've shut it down in lots of those countries. So he wants to network with them and get some ideas on what we can do, because we really have to gather the troops and stop these people. My opinion is we really need to watch our state houses. We need to watch the legislation going through the representatives. All of our state houses of legislature, that's where they're going to sneak this legislation through. So you can go to Kevin's GoFundMe page and make a contribution, because he's going to be there through September. We definitely need support to help Kevin Blanch. He has a GoFundMe page. You can go to the Post-Ignorance Project. There's a link to that also. Post-Ignorance, the post-ignoranceproject.com. That's our website that we have. Over the next 2 months, I'm going to work with Thomas Ackerman, and hopefully we can get a recording of Shane Russell talking about the FOIA documents. And I'd like to do with Ackerman some conference calling and share this radio time with him and we can engage in some conversation. And I think that what we're going to attempt to do while Kevin's gone is bring some different information than, obviously everybody has their own little style. So we're going to bring a little bit of different information. I'm going to make an effort to bring the free radicals in on this conversation, because Thomas Ackerman is determined to make the free radicals deliver the Post-Ignorance Project, and I'm all for that. You can go to Thomas Ackerman's, I guess you can type in the free radicals. I apologize, I need to get some more information on that. You can go to Thomas Ackerman's, I think he's got a website. I Googled him and just could find Thomas Ackerman artist, and he's in Canada. So Hopefully he'll be able to join us over the next couple of weeks. We're going to try to expand this and have a few people talking so that, because what I do, my whole focus is for us to start thinking about how we got into this mess and how do we stop it. And how we got into it is just sheer gross negligence and laziness. Like this House Bill 3445 in Oregon. They're about to declare a fucking state of emergency so they can build nuclear reactors all over our state. And the people in Oregon really have no idea that this is about to hit them in the head. And, this is the only way that we're going to get through this, folks, is by each of us doing our own little bit of research, digging it up, and start talking about it and rattle the cages. You got the people around you, do what you can do. Carl Grossman said it right. You've got to do what you can do because the nuclear cartel, they definitely have all the power. I mean, obviously they have all the power. We have a catastrophic, world-changing event going off of the coast of Japan right now in Fukushima. We still have 4 nuclear reactors in complete meltdown. In fact, in China syndrome, spewing radiation into the Pacific and into the air nonstop for now 4.5 years. In March, it's going to be 5 years. They have not solved the problem. Chernobyl, it took them a year, but they solved it. So it's up to us to pressure our government to let our stupid politicians, that they're being fucking stupid dumbasses, and they've got to rattle the cages and have some courage and stand up for the planet. It's going to take us. We have to have our courage. We have to be willing to stand up to the people in power. This is how a battered wife, the only reason every wife who's ever had the shit kicked out of her is still alive is because she stands up to her batterer. Batterers don't wake up one day and say, I really should stop beating the shit out of my wife. No. They apologize, promise they're never going to do it again, and then when they lose their temper, they fly out of a fucking rage and get worse, and they eventually kill their spouse. And the only way a battered wife ever survives is by leaving. And that's what we need to do, folks. We need to leave the nuclear cartel. We need to leave these people, and we need to decide. There is no battered cultured shelter, but you know what? We can build it ourselves. Through power, through self-information, through action. And it is super important for all of us to take action against the nuclear cartel and to stop them and to pay attention. And if anybody is in Oregon, you need to be writing your elected officials and calling them immediately about House Bill 3445 that was sponsored by Representative Widener, Weidner, Representatives Bueller and Hurd. And stop them and tell them it is illegal for us to have nuclear power inside the state of Oregon. We passed that law a long time ago. And we do not need a state of emergency declared in the state of Oregon. This is the kind of bullshit they perpetrate on us. So I see we're coming up. We've only got like a minute and a half left, folks. So kind of goes fast. That's what I think. I am encouraging everybody who wants to get actively engaged. Please visit the Post Ignorance Project webpage. You can contact us at the Post Ignorance Project at Gmail. Send us an email. Please do contribute to the Post Ignorance Project at our GoFundMe page or on the PayPal button on our website. Your sponsorship, even small amounts, help contribute to being able to sustain Kevin's travels. It's not free and it's not cheap. So we believe that it's very vital that Kevin continues to speak out and engage in a way that gets attention, because obviously there's some anti-nuclear organizations, but they're so quiet and mouse-like that nobody hears them. So I can hear the entry ending. We've got 20 seconds left, you guys. I'll be back here on Thursday. I don't know if I'll be able to figure this out with Ackerman, but we're going to sure make an effort at it. And keep on keeping on, you guys. Put your courage feet on, because we've got to have some courage to face these nuclear monsters. I believe we can.
All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. They'll be calling you a radical. Twin Gate, 311, whatever you want to